Our movie kicks off with a young kid named Kami from a poor family, but he's absolutely obsessed with American football. We see him glued to the TV, watching a crucial game for his favorite team, and his whole family is right there with him, cheering for the same team. The tension is high. Their team is losing to their rivals. But suddenly, the club's legend, Wyatt, appears on screen. Wyatt goes into beast mode, fighting with everything he has until he flips the score and wins the game for his team. But it came at a cost. He gets a bad injury. In that moment, Kami and his family are ecstatic about their team's victory. This is when Kami's dad leans in and tells him something that will stick with him forever. There's no glory without sacrifice. He teaches him that he has to fight to become the club's next legend. Years go by. Wyatt literally carries the team on his back, winning all the time, but he racks up 8 chronic injuries. As Wyatt gets older, everyone realizes the team needs to find a new hero to lead them into the future. At this point, Wyatt is devastated, watching his glory and championships fade away, and he's powerless to do anything about it. And that's when our young hero emerges. Everyone sees him as the perfect fit to lead the team. This hero is Kami. The media blows up surrounding him, doing interviews, asking him how he managed to capture the public's attention like this. Kami humbly replies, telling them his father taught him everything, and that his dad sacrificed his entire life to make him a champion. Later, Kami goes to train by himself, getting ready for his childhood team's tryouts. But suddenly, disaster strikes. A masked man appears and hits him hard on the head. The doctors say the blow caused severe head trauma, and his recovery could take years. We see Kami in shock, watching his dream fall apart right before his eyes. His mother is terrified of him going to the tryouts and suffering complications. But Tom, his agent, who also used to be Wyatt's agent, tries to convince Kami to push through and go to the tryouts. This causes a huge argument between Tom and Kami's mother, and it gets so heated they're practically screaming at each other. But Kami loses it, yelling at both of them, saying this is just a setback and he will fight to overcome it and achieve his dream. We next see Kami standing at the stadium entrance, heartbroken as he watches his teammates go into practice. Suddenly, Kami hears a strange noise behind him. He approaches the source of the sound and finds a fan. The fan hands him a pen and asks him to sign his clothes. This simple moment deeply affects Kami. Because of this, Kami decides to go to a party thrown by a friend to clear his head. And while Kami is feeling broken and lost, Tom calls with unbelievable news. Wyatt is impressed with his talent and is offering to train him personally. Naturally, Kami is over the moon and agrees without a second thought. The next day, Tom picks Kami up and drives him to Wyatt's private compound. But on the way, Kami sees some strange, frantic-looking people, and one of them bangs on the car window yelling, "We don't want you here." Tom tells Kami they're part of some mysterious group and reassures him he'll be safe with Wyatt. Kami arrives at the compound. He's floored by all the medals and statues Wyatt has received honoring his achievements over the years. Then, Wyatt meets Kami, welcomes him, and tells him he's impressed with his talent and will train him to be a legend one day. First thing, Wyatt takes Kami's phone and turns it off. He tells him he'll be completely isolated from the outside world to maintain focus, and explains he's going to train him and prepare him for a presentation held by the club owners. Wyatt warns Kami, just as hard as he's going to fight in training, he also needs to enjoy his talent. Kami is fired up by Wyatt's words, and he's genuinely happy, training with his idol. Wyatt then introduces Kami to Marco, his personal doctor. Marco gives Kami a full physical to design a rapid rehabilitation program for him. A bit later, Kami meets Elsie, Wyatt's wife. Elsie is very impressed with Kami's talent and tells him that his presence will help Wyatt get through the difficult time he's facing, as he feels his retirement is near. Later, Wyatt has Kami sit in an ice bath to help with his recovery, but Kami notices something very strange. He sees Wyatt giving himself a blood transfusion. Wyatt explains that he periodically fills blood bags, stores them during his rest periods, and reinfuses the blood back into his body when he wants to train at a higher efficiency. After that, Marco injects Kami with a substance that will help ease the pain and allow him to relax. And sure enough, after Marco leaves, the lights go out, and Kami falls asleep right there in the ice. The next day, one of Wyatt's team members wakes Kami up by dousing him with water. Then, Wyatt takes Kami out to train in the desert. They run a long distance, but despite the age difference between them, Wyatt completes the drill normally, while Kami collapses on the ground from exhaustion. At that moment, the sun affects Kami's head, and he hallucinates that a masked man is holding a hammer, smashing his skull. Kami starts panicking, literally unable to breathe, but Wyatt calms him down, takes him, and brings him back to the compound. He sits with him and explains that he's being so hard on him in training to make him stronger, so he can avoid the curse of injuries and learn to play through anything. Wyatt then introduces Kami to some of the strongest players he's ever trained. As Wyatt goes to talk with them, he has Marco give Kami a shot of steroids so he can withstand the training. And here, Wyatt decides to up the ante. He wants to train Kami to throw with better accuracy. To do this, he decides to play mind games. He has one of the team members stand in front of a ball-throwing machine. The machine fires balls at Kami, who has to pass them to his teammates. But every time Kami makes a bad pass, Wyatt orders his assistant to increase the machine's speed, and the ball slams right into the face of the player standing in front of it. Kami starts to freak out, getting into fights with his teammates and cussing them out because they can't catch his passes. But Wyatt screams at him, saying, "If you want to be the champion, you have to weigh every word before you say it. Because just as a champion receives the crowd's praise when he wins, he must also bear the bitterness of defeat." At that moment, Kami understands the lesson. He regains his focus, throws the balls with pinpoint accuracy, and finally manages to save the player before he's killed. Afterward, Marco takes Kami to treat the injury on his head. He tells him that Wyatt suffered a very severe head injury once before, but Marco reassures him, saying he had Wyatt sit in a pressure suction room to maintain his balance and was able to heal him. Wyatt then puts Kami inside this pressure chamber and leaves him. But because of the low pressure, Kami's mind starts to get affected. He remembers his mother's words, telling him she doesn't want him to sacrifice himself just to be a hero. So, Kami decides to listen to his mom. He goes to practice the next day and tries to just have fun, not caring about the results. But Wyatt gets furious, telling him if he continues like this, he'll just be another average player that history forgets. This triggers a memory for Kami. He remembers his father training him, saying the exact same thing. His father always told him he had to sacrifice to achieve glory. As Kami remembers his father's words, combined with Wyatt's verbal abuse, he snaps. He attacks the player holding the ball, hitting him in the head with all his strength, knocking him unconscious, and snatching the ball. At that, Wyatt smiles. He tells Kami he's proud of him and celebrates with him and the other players. Later, Kami wanders into an area with many locked rooms, trying to figure out what's in them. Suddenly, he feels like someone is watching him. With no warning, he hallucinates that the club owners are strangling him while journalists film the whole thing. The second he snaps out of it, he runs to find a phone and calls his mother. He tells her he's starting to see strange things. His mom understands that the injury is still affecting his mind and tries to comfort him. But suddenly, Kami sees Marco standing right behind him. He's forced to hang up immediately, knowing he's not allowed to contact anyone outside the compound. But luckily for him, Marco is drunk and not fully coherent. Marco sits with him and confesses he's miserable about the years he's wasted in this place. He says that ever since he entered the compound, he hasn't seen or spoken to his family. Because of this, Marco advises Kami not to make sacrifices just to be a hero. He keeps hinting that Kami is being prepared for something, but Marco can't explain what he means. He just gives Kami a sedative and leaves. Later, Kami joins Wyatt in the sauna. Wyatt decides it's time to tell him how important football is in his life. He tells him that before he played football, he had no family. But after he became a star player, everyone around him loved and respected him, and that's how he overcame his loneliness. We can tell from Wyatt's words that he's terrified of the moment he'll have to retire and no longer feel important. Wyatt tells Kami he is truly gifted and advises him to work and fight even harder to become a legend. Wyatt then leaves Kami alone in the sauna. But just then, Kami starts to feel the hallucinations returning. He decides to close his eyes and sleep. But then, the shock. The crazy girl who attacked his car on the road crawls out from under the bench, holding a rock to finish him off. At the last second, Kami dodges the blow and chokes her with all his strength until she passes out. Kami runs out of the room only to find Wyatt standing right in front of him. We then see the dazed girl stumble towards Wyatt, but he slams her head against the wall, killing her. At this point, Kami is on edge, his nerves shot. This is where Elsie steps in. She decides to throw a private party to calm him down. But Wyatt doesn't like Kami losing focus and decides to take him out to the desert to shoot guns. Out there, Wyatt starts playing mind games with Kami again, trying to rattle him. He tells him, "If you hit the target, I will give you literally everything you've ever dreamed of. But if you fail, I'll take your youth." Strangely, Kami raises the stakes on himself, telling Wyatt that if he misses the target, he'll give him his spot on the team next season. With total confidence, Kami aims and hits the target. After that, he goes back to the weight room and trains like a beast, because he finally understands he has to fight for his position. The next day, Wyatt and Elsie take Kami for a photo shoot and present him to the press. Kami uses the opportunity to tell the story of his father, who literally sacrificed his life to train him and make him a champion. As Kami remembers his father's words, he breaks down and cries because he couldn't achieve his father's dream before he died. Later, Elsie sits with Kami and tells him she heard his speech, and she's certain he will be a champion and fulfill his father's wish. On that note, she decides to surprise him, telling him the club owners are throwing a party and want to meet him. She lets him know he's successfully won them over, and they're going to offer him the same deal they offered Wyatt 20 years ago. Kami is pumped and goes with her. There, Kami sees Marco at the party. But before Elsie can take Kami to meet the owners, Marco grabs Kami and tells him, "Run." Kami tenses up, confused about why Marco is telling him this, but Elsie notices and pulls Kami away to introduce him to the owners. Tom, his agent, is sitting with them. Tom tells Kami the owners are impressed with his talent and are going to make him a huge offer. Kami agrees to the deal, feeling on top of the world. Meanwhile, Wyatt is furious, training with all his might to defend his position. But then, the bizarre twist. In that same moment, Elsie, furious about what Marco did, kills him. A little later, Kami starts to sober up and sees Marco's head separated from his body. In that instant, Kami realizes he's trapped with a psychotic cult. He can't handle the shock and passes out. He wakes up back in the compound to find them giving him a full bag of Wyatt's blood. He rips the needle out of his arm and grabs the injection that Marco used to give him to fight through the pain. He then goes looking for Wyatt to understand what's happening and to avenge Marco. He finds Wyatt sitting in one of the locked rooms. Wyatt has a screen on the ceiling, watching old footage of fans cheering for him and chanting his name, as if he can't accept that he's gotten old and it's time to retire. Kami is enraged and attacks Wyatt, but Wyatt dodges the attack and throws him off. At this point, Wyatt decides to confess everything. He tells Kami the owners are the ones who decided to bring him here to determine if he was worthy of being a champion. He also reveals that they perform satanic rituals, transferring the blood of former champions into themselves to gain championship genes, and that anyone who came before and failed was killed, and no one ever heard from them again. Wyatt then tells Kami that now that he knows everything, there's only one way out to achieve his dream and become a champion. He has to kill Wyatt, kill him, walk out the door, meet the owners, and sign the contract. Cammy looks at Wyatt with disgust and lunges at him with all his strength, but Wyatt quickly overpowers Cammy, crushing his skull violently and breaking his arm. But even so, Cammy doesn't give up. He grabs a helmet and smashes Wyatt in the face, knocking him to the ground. He keeps hitting him savagely until he finishes him off. Afterward, Cammy walks out of the room and finds Elsie, Tom, and the club owners wearing strange masks. They're holding his contract, ready for him to sign, since he defeated Wyatt. But at that moment, Cammy refuses to sign the contract. Not after learning the truth about the owners and what they do. He's even more shocked when he sees a picture of himself as a child standing with his father and one of the club owners. Cammy realizes his father was one of the people who died in this place, that his father was also fighting to achieve his dream. Tom then admits that the owners were the ones who sent someone to attack him so they could bring him here and prepare him their way. Tom keeps begging Cammy to sign the contract, but Cammy still refuses. One of the owners then threatens to kill his entire family. Just then, Cammy looks down and sees the hammer from his hallucinations at his feet. He closes his eyes, thinking about his family's fate, but in the end, he refuses to sign. He dodges a blow from the owner's assassin, grabs the hammer, and finishes him with it. Elsie becomes enraged, grabs a knife, and runs at him, but she trips, and the knife lodges in her own neck, killing her. Cammy then grabs a sword and attacks all the owners, finishing them off in the most brutal ways. When he goes to kill Tom, he finds him terrified, begging for his life. At that moment, Cammy decides to leave Tom. We then learn that Tom is terrified of the curse that will befall him if no one signs the contract. Cammy leaves Tom to be dragged into the sacrifice circle and watches him being tortured. In the end, Cammy walks out of the compound, having avenged his father and destroyed the corrupt club owners. He is incredibly proud of him.